Hello dear students, today I am with my first lecture of module 4 of group theory 2, which is conjugacy and class equations. So first of all we are going to define what do you mean by conjugacy classes and class equation. So let G be a group and A and B are any two arbitrary elements of group G, then A and B are said to be conjugate in G, or B is said to be conjugate of A if x inverse is equal to B for some x belonging to G. Clear? Here A and B are said to be conjugate elements of group G if there exists some x belonging to G such that B can be expressed in the form x inverse. Then A and B is said to be conjugate to A conjugate of A. The conjugacy of A is denoted by the set CLA. This is the set of all elements which are of the type XA X inverse where X belongs to G. So this is called class equation, class sets. Now first, the very important property of conjugacy class of A in a group G, it is an equivalence relation. That is, we have to show the conjugacy class of A in G is an equivalence relation. So for that we have to prove this relation is reflexive, symmetric and transitive. So first of all we are going to show that this conjugacy class of A is reflexive. That is, we have to show that A is conjugate to A itself. So that is the reflexive law. Since G is a group, so it must have an identity element. So let E belongs to G be the identity element of G. Then we know identity element is unique and it is self-inverse. That is, E inverse will be equal to E. So now we can write A as EA inverse. E inverse. EA E inverse. It is equal to A. So that is the relation of this type XA X inverse where X belongs to G. Here in place of X we have E. So that implies A is conjugate to A itself. Hence this relation of conjugacy is reflexive. Now secondly we have to prove the relation of conjugacy class is symmetric. That is, if we have to show if A is conjugate to over B, then B is also conjugate over A. So for that, let A and B be any two arbitrary element of G such that B is conjugate to A. Now we have to show A is also conjugate to B. Since B is conjugate to A, so this implies by definition of conjugacy class, there exists some X belonging to G such that B is equal to XA X inverse. Let it be equation number 1. Now since X inverse belongs to G, so this implies the inverse of X inverse, that is X inverse whole inverse, which is equal to X, which will also belongs to G, since each element of G possesses inverse. Now pre-multiplying by X inverse and post-multiplying by X inverse whole inverse in equation 1. That means we have to multiply the B, pre-multiply B with X inverse and post-multiply with X inverse whole inverse. So now taking this will be equal to X inverse B, X inverse whole inverse, and in the right hand side we get X inverse bracket XA X inverse whole X inverse to whole inverse, and this X inverse to inverse will be equal to X, and so this will be equal to this. And now we apply associativity. Since all these elements are the elements of G, which is group, so it is obviously multiplication is a multiplicative group, you can say. So multiplication will be associative over the elements of G. So we use that associativity and we will get this. Since X inverse is inverse of X in G, so when we operate X inverse with X, we will get identity. So we have EAE, and we know when we multiply anything with identity, there's no change in that element, so it comes out to be A. So we have expressed A as X inverse B, X inverse inverse, that where X inverse is some element of G. So this is the relation of conjugacy. So this implies A is conjugate to B. So what we have shown that if B is conjugate to A, then obviously A is conjugate to B. That is, the relation of conjugacy is a symmetric relation. So we have proved two things, reflexive and symmetric. Now it is left to prove that this relation is transitive. So let us consider, for transitivity, we have to show if B is conjugate to A is C is conjugate to A, so there will be a conjugacy between A and C. So let us assume A, B, C belongs to G be three element such that A is conjugate to B and B is conjugate to C. So we have to show A is conjugate to C also. So first of all, since A is conjugate to B, so there exists some element X belonging to G such that B can be expressed in the form B is equal to X inverse AX. Now, it is also given that B is conjugate to C, so there exists one more element. There we can find some element in G, let it be Y, such that C is equal to Y inverse BY. So now putting the value of B from above, X inverse AX, in this equation, so we will get this. And by using all these elements are from G, so by using the associativity of multiplication, we will get Y inverse X inverse AXY. And since we know Y inverse X inverse will be equal to XY whole inverse, this is by reversal law, and this will be equal to XY whole inverse AXY. Since X and Y are any two arbitrary elements of G, and G is group, so by closure law, let it be XY is equal to Z, and so Z will also be a member of G. So this implies you can say that C is of the type Z inverse A, Z inverse whole inverse. So this shows that A is conjugate to C. So that implies this relation is transitive. So what we have proved that this relation of conjugacy is reflexive, symmetric, and transitive. So it is an equivalence relation. Now we discuss some of the properties. So first is what? The number of conjugates of an element A in a group G is the index of centralizer or normalizer of A. That is, the number of conjugate of any element A is the index. You know about the index set. Index is what? Since each subgroup divides the order of group by Lagrange's theorem, and that number is called the index. So here we say that the number of conjugate of an element A is the index of centralizer, that is, or normalizer. You know about normalizer or centralizer, that is the set of those elements of G which commute with A. That is, you can say the set NA or CLA, whatever you denote it, be those X belonging to G such that XA is equal to AX. That is, those elements which will commute with that. So this you can say what? A gives you the partition of conjugacy, classes give you the partition of groups. Now the second property is what? Let G be a finite group and A is any arbitrary element. Then class A is symmetric to CA. Now we have the definition of the class equation. Since conjugacy classes partition a group, so a counting principle for conjugacy classes is given by class equation, which is given by the order of any group G is equal to order of ZG plus where A not belonging to G and sigma order of G upon order of NA. Here ZG is center of G and NA is normalizer of G. We have discussed both the things in my previous lectures. What is what is center of a group and what is the definition of normalizer of a group. You can put this below this summation. A is not equal to Z. So this type of thing is called the class equation. That is, the order of group will be equal to sum of order of center of group plus where A does not belongs to the center, it is equal to summation of order of G upon order of NA, where NA is normalizer or centralizer of group G. all the things we have already discussed in the previous lectures, so you will be able to understand it very easily. Now we are going to do some of the exercise, some of the questions over these relations. So first of all, there's question: if index of ZG in G is n, then show that any conjugate has at most n elements. That is what? If the index of ZG in G, that is order of G upon order of ZG, is equal to n, that is index of ZG in G is n, then any conjugate had at most n elements. So now, since the index of ZG in G is n, that is order of G upon order of ZG is equal to n, it is given. This is by Lagrange's theorem. N is the index, means, and ZG is a subgroup, normal subgroup of G. You know it about very well, that center of group is a normal subgroup. And so every subgroup divides the order of group. Since the order of group is finite, so this divides the order of group and we will get n, which is the index. So we have to show that any conjugate set of A will contain at the most n elements. So now order of CLA, that is class A, will be order of G upon order of NA. You know it. So ZG is contained in NA. You know it. So this implies order of ZG upon order of NA by Lagrange's theorem. Order of NA divides the order of G. So this implies, and let it be equal to K. So order of NA is equal to K times order of ZG. So using this 1 and 3 into 1 and 3 into, we get order of CLA, class of A. Order of class of A is equal to order of N into order of Z. This is by this order of G is equal to N times order of Z. So we put order of G is equal to N times order of Z. So we have N times order of Z, and this is equal to K times order of ZG. So this implies this will give you order of class of A is equal to N by K. So maximum value of order of CLA is N when K is equal to 1. Otherwise, it will be less than N. So that means what? If we have index of ZG in G is n, so class of A can have at the most n element, either n elements or less than n elements. That will depend upon the value of K. If K is 1, then that maximum value comes out to be n. If K is greater than 1, so it will be less than n. So that's the theorem. So now we are going to discuss one more very important theorem, which says that if class of A is a singleton set containing A only, then A belongs to ZG. This is the necessary and sufficient condition, if and only if part. That is, if class of A is singleton A, this happens only when A belongs to ZG. So to prove this theorem for both parts, we suppose CLA is equal to A, singleton A. That is, then A is self-conjugate. So the self-conjugate element of A is A itself. So therefore, all y belonging to G, y inverse AY will be equal to A. So this gives you, by pre-multiplying both sides by y, you will get AY is equal to YA for all y belonging to G. So this type of element, this property is commutativity. So when this type of thing happens, then A belongs to ZG. This theorem is necessary. So if class of A is singleton A, we can easily prove that the A belongs to Z. Now we prove the converse part. So for that, we suppose let A belongs to ZG, that is center of G. So that center of G, you know, those elements of G, capital G, which are commutative with A. So A belongs to ZG, and let X belongs to class of A, be arbitrary. So this, as X belongs to class of A, so this implies X, we can write X is equal to Y inverse AY, since it is an element of class of A. So it will be a conjugate conjugate, it will be conjugate to A. So we have some y belonging to G such that x is equal to y inverse AY. So now we have, since A belongs to ZG, so AY will be equal to YA. So we put AY is equal to YA. So this will be equal to AY inverse Y, and this is A into YE, and this implies x is equal to E. We can easily prove it. So that's the theorem from both parts. If class of A has only one element, it is a singleton set containing A only, then A will be an element of the center of Z, center Z of G. So that's the theorem. Now we are moving to second theorem, which says that a group of order P square, where P is any prime number, is abelian. That is, a group of order P square is abelian. We have to show it. So suppose order of G is P square, it is given where P is prime number. Now we have to show G is abelian. So for that we will suppose, let it possible, G is non-abelian. So this implies ZG will not be in G, because ZG is set of center of group, and center of group is the set of all those elements where the element commutes. So that implies ZG will not be equal to G, since G is non-abelian. So this implies there exists some A belonging to G such that A will not be in ZG. So this implies NA will contained in G and NA is not equal to G. We have already discussed these properties of normalizer and center of group in previous lectures. From there you can easily understand this. So now we know center of group is always contained in normalizer of A, always. So since ZG is not equal to NA, so this implies it will be a proper subset of NA. So it will be a proper subset of NA. And since order of ZG is divides the order of G, so order of G is P square, the order of G divides the order of ZG, that is center is a normal subgroup of G, and since the order of G is P square, so by Lagrange's theorem the order of ZG will divide the order of G, that is P square, and P square is a prime number. So order of ZG is either 1 or P square. This is very clear by using Lagrange's theorem. And since P square is a prime number, P is a prime number, the P square, we have only 3 divisors of order of Z will be 1, P or P square. We know if order of G is P to the power n, P is prime number and n is positive integer, then order of ZG is greater than 1. This is a property which we have proved earlier. So by using it, we know that if order of G is Pn, where n is any positive integer, then order of ZG will be greater than 1. So using this property by 1, order of ZG is either P or P square. Okay, so if order of G is P square, then it will be equal to order of G. Order of ZG is P square, then P square is the order of G. So that is what the order of subgroup and order of group are same. Order of group and order of subgroup are same. So this implies ZG will be equal to G. It is not possible since ZG is a center of group. So here the commutativity holds, but we have already assumed that G is a non-abelian group. So this cannot be happen. So G will not be equal to ZG. So that means order of ZG cannot be P square. So now the possibility becomes order of ZG is equal to P. Now order of NA is normalizer. Normalizer also divides the order of G. So this implies order of NA is either 1, P or P square, since it divides the order of G. It is a subgroup of G. So if and NA is not equal to G, so order of NA will never be equal to P square. So the only possibility is, and ZJ is contained in NA by 1. We have already assumed that ZG is a proper subset of NA. So ZG is contained in NA. So this implies order of NA will be greater than 1. So this implies order of Na is greater than 1. So it cannot be equal to 1. It cannot be equal to p square. So only possibility left is order of Na will be equal to p. So if order of Na is equal to p, but we have already proved that order of Zg is equal to p. So in this case, we have what? Order of Na and order of Zg is equal to p. So we have with two subgroups of G, we have two such type of subgroup of G where the order is same. So these two subgroup will also be same. So Na will be equal to Zg, which is a contradiction because we have already assumed that Na will be a proper superset of a Zg. So Zg is contained in Na. So it is not possible. So we have arrived at a contradiction. So that means what? Our assumption is not correct. What we have assumed? We have assumed that G is a non-abelian group. It is not possible. So the only possibility left is G must be a abelian group. So that's proved the theorem. And I have discussed all the properties and class equation and conjugacy and different thing here. So I hope you understand all the things. So thank you.